video is looking at formula feeding, and there are two main things to consider here: cleanliness and accuracy. Formula milk powder is not a sterile product, and as such there is a chance that it can pass on infections and tummy bugs to a baby. So it's really important that the equipment that you use, the bottles, the teats, etc., are all sterilised in between each feed, ready for the next feed. It's also important that the water you use when making up bottles of formula milk is freshly boiled water, not water that has previously been boiled and sitting in the kettle for any length of time. You can allow it to cool down for no more than 30 minutes after it's been boiled to allow it just to drop in temperature slightly, but it shouldn't go below 70 degrees because that is the temperature required to kill off any bugs that may be in the formula milk powder. It's also important just to make the formula milk feeds up as you need them, not to make lots in advance and store them, because again, if you make them as you need them and your baby uses them immediately, there's much less likelihood of them developing an infection from the milk powder, from it having sat around for any length of time. So in order to make up the feeds, you need to firstly, as I said, boil your kettle, then allow it to cool for no more than 30 minutes. Pour the required amount of water into your sterile bottle, making sure your work surface is clean. The instructions will be on the tin or on the box and will tell you how much you need for your age or weight of baby. Always put the water in first, because that way you get an accurate measurement. Once the correct amount of water is in the bottle, then you add the correct number of scoops of powder, leveling them off with the back of a knife or using the leveler within the packet, and not pushing them down or having them rounded on the top. Again, it's very important that you get your quantities right, because if you put too much milk powder in with the water, then your baby may become dehydrated or constipated, and if you don't put enough milk powder in, they may become undernourished. So the quantities are important. Once you've added your powder, you put the teat on, just touching the very side of it and then putting the ring over the top to screw it in place. Add the lid, give the bottle a really good shake to distribute and dissolve the powder. And then you will need to cool the bottle to a temperature where the baby can safely drink it. So to do that, either run it under a cold tap or sit it in a jug of cold water, shaking it to distribute the milk and making sure it's evenly cooled throughout. So formula-fed babies will give you the same feeding cues as breastfed babies will, which we've already looked at in the breastfeeding video. So follow their signals and feed them when they require feeding. And in the early days, your baby may only take tiny quantities of formula milk at a time because their tummy is very small, and they may want feeding every couple of hours, just as a breastfed baby does. Formula milk does tend to sit for longer in a baby's stomach and is harder for them to digest, so it may be that your baby can go a little bit longer between feeds, but particularly in those first 6 to 8 weeks, be guided by your baby. Don't worry if they don't finish a whole feed, don't worry if they want a little bit more. Everybody gets hungry at different times, just as adults do, so babies do. So be guided by your baby, and when they've had enough, let them stop, and when they're hungry again, make them up another feed.